Hi, I'm Susie Cortright, a realtor in beautiful Breckenridge, Colorado. Today, I'm going to answer a question that I have been getting a lot these days, which is, can I still purchase a short-term rental property here in Breckenridge? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to give you some details on where exactly and other things that you really need to know and consider. Now, you probably know that many resort areas across the country are restricting short-term rental activity, and Breckenridge and the other towns in Summit County are no exception. You're probably aware that we have a number of different resort towns and areas within Summit County, and I'm going to pull up a map here. While that drives so much of our wonderful real estate and rental activity to have so many of these different resort towns and areas, it can also create kind of a confusing environment for prospective real estate buyers who are trying to navigate these new short-term rental ordinances. And that's because, each of the towns within Summit County is going to have its own set of rules for STRs. These towns include, as you can see, Breckenridge, Blue River, Frisco, Silverthorne, and Dillon. And then there are the rules that are going to govern the unincorporated areas of Summit County. So all of these areas outside of town limits, and which also include the resort areas of Keystone and Copper Mountain. So lots of different jurisdictions, each with different rules. And it really can be difficult for prospective buyers to know which properties are outside town limits. And it's not really immediately obvious when you leave a town, especially in some areas in and around Breckenridge. There is actually an easy trick to know whether you're within the Breckenridge town limits as you're driving around. My clients know it, and once we start working together, you'll know it too. But it gets even more confusing because within the town of Breckenridge, there are 4 different zones, and each of these zones is going to have a different short-term rental cap or restriction. So for this reason, it's really more important than ever that you are working with a knowledgeable local real estate broker who is really up to date on these current ordinances. Now, to help you navigate this, I have created an online resource. You may know that I have written hundreds of articles on my website, susiecortright.com, to keep buyers and sellers informed on the Breckenridge and the Summit County real estate market. And I have a page here that is going to keep you updated. These rules are subject to change. So please first note that these rules are current for the town of Breckenridge as of January 2023. Because these rules are likely to change over time, it's important that we talk about any updates one-on-one as you get closer to making a purchasing decision. And even if you end up with a property outside of Summit County, it's really important for you to do your own due diligence on this. Call and talk to the town or county officials directly so you can make sure that local ordinances allow you to do what you wish with the property. So here's the easiest way to navigate to this resource. If you just go to my main page at susiecortright.com, and then you can go over to the blog portion. You can access it both through the most popular posts and through the Summit County Real Estate FAQs. So if you click this, you'll see the first question here, at least at this time, is about those short-term rental licensing restrictions. So you click that, and then you can jump to these different quick links that will take you to the individual towns and what's going on now in those individual towns. So speaking of frequently asked questions, I want to start with the answers to 2 questions I get the most as a Breckenridge realtor when it comes to Breckenridge short-term rentals. One, people want to know, do Breckenridge short-term rental licenses ever transfer with the sale of a property? So the answer is no. Generally speaking, they do not. The Town of Breckenridge website specifically states that short-term rental licenses are not transferable in the event of a property sale. And 2, people want to know what actually is a short-term rental, what defines a short-term rental. And the definition, again, per the Town of Breckenridge, is a, quote, residential dwelling unit or any room therein, available for a lease of a term of less than 30 consecutive days. So that's important to remember. Without a short-term rental license, you can still rent a property monthly, seasonally, or long-term, as long as there's no additional restrictions at, say, the HOA level. And there could be some real advantages to you for doing so, for renting it either long-term, monthly, seasonally, which we can discuss on a one-on-one basis. But, okay, so here we go. Short-term rentals in the town of Breckenridge. In August of 2022, as you can see, the Breckenridge Town Council approved a new short-term rental ordinance, which essentially created 4 zones. each of which has a specified cap for the number of licenses in that zone. I'm going to move my face down so you can see that a little bit better. First, there is the zone that comprises the resort properties. This is what we had been calling exempt properties under the previous ordinance. But 100% of the housing stock here in these resort properties is allowed to be a short-term rental. And these are the properties that have an on-site front desk, on-site security, central phone system. They include the residential properties of such buildings as One Ski Hill Place, Crystal Peak Lodge, River Mountain Lodge, Village at Breckenridge, and some others. Now, additionally, there are 2 areas in Breckenridge that appear to be in town but are actually unincorporated Summit County, and they are exempt as well, but on the county level, not to get too confusing. But they are the 4 O'Clock subdivision and Ski Watch condos. And keep in mind that, again, exempt status can change in the future, so your own due diligence is really important no matter where you purchase. So that's the resort zone in a nutshell. We'll talk more about what buildings fall into that zone in a moment. But in the resort zone, no cap within a set of particular condo complexes. And then there is zone 1, which is also known as the tourism zone. And here, 92% of the housing stock is allowed to have a short-term rental license. These tend to be the ski in, ski out, certain walk to slope properties, such as those along, say, 4 O'Clock Road, on Columbine Circle. Then there's Zone 2, also known as the downtown core. Here, 51% of the housing stock is eligible for a short-term rental license. And finally, Zone 3, or the single-family residential area, where just 10% of the housing stock is going to be eligible for a short-term rental license. And I have a map here that I can give you, but you can see the exempt or resort buildings are outlined in yellow. The green is the Zone 1. The Zone 2, or the downtown core, is pink here. And then the Zone 3 is this blue area. So a large area is going to be restricted to just 10% of the housing stock eligible for that short-term rental license. Now, as you can imagine, especially here in Zone 3, the number of active short-term rental licenses exceeds this 10% figure. And since existing short-term rental licenses were not taken away when the new ordinance went into place, this number will need to come down through attrition. So, for example, someone selling their property or someone giving up their license. This needs to happen before new licenses can be granted. Current projections indicate it could be years before rental licenses are available in these zones. There is a wait list on the Town of Breckenridge website. So if you want to have reasonable assurance of being able to short-term rent your property and you have your heart set on Breckenridge, you will want to restrict your search to certain areas of Breckenridge. Kind of the bottom line. These are first the resort or exempt buildings or areas of Breckenridge. And I do have a page, again, on my website that is going to feature the active listings in each of these. Best way to navigate that, you can go down, you can scroll down here, you can see each of the buildings and a direct link to that building, a little bit more about that building, my write-up on the building, and then the active listings that are currently in place there. Or you can click here on this exempt Breckenridge properties link, and it's going to take you to a little bit more about it. Again, direct links to the buildings. And then you can just scroll through and see these are all the properties today in those exempt resort areas. There's actually another page in addition. So you can find out more about that. And then you can even sign up for like new listing alerts here so that you can be automatically notified when a new one of these resort or exempt listings comes on the market. So that can be a helpful resource. Now, secondly, you will have reasonable assurance of getting a license after purchasing in Zone 1. It all depends, of course, on the numbers of active licenses at the time of your purchase, and I can help you navigate that as well. I can send you this map of the different zones, but we also have a tool that tends to be a little bit more helpful. Here is a link that I can send you to, which is a searchable GIS tool that the Town of Breckenridge has created, that you can just type in an address, a tax schedule number, and get the zone, whether resort, Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, which can really, really help to clear up any kind of just something that's just not very clear. Because some properties are a little bit difficult to know exactly which zone that they fall under. Now, a reminder again that the information I've relayed here applies only to the properties actually within the town limits of Breckenridge. Other areas of Summit County have different rules, and they're going to be covered in different videos. Of course, the easiest thing to do is call or email me, and I can answer your questions, and I can get you set up with automatic notification of properties that fit your criteria. Also, a good idea to subscribe to my monthly newsletter, as I provide information on this changing landscape in my newsletter, along with all kinds of statistics. You can, of course, always reference this page on my SusieCortright.com website. I do work diligently to keep this page updated with new developments on short-term rental restrictions across the county. I actually just this morning updated a new development in Silverthorne, so I try really hard to keep it well updated. And of course, on my website, you can also download my Summit County Real Estate Handbook, kind of an insider's guide. You can read my most popular posts, which, there's quite a few of them. You can read the rest of those frequently asked questions. You can subscribe. My goal is always to be the most comprehensive source of information for my clients. And another thing I like to mention along those lines, many of you know that I am a big believer in specializing in a very particular community, so that I can know as much as possible about the real estate market in that community. And for this reason, I handle Breckenridge and all of the towns inside Summit County. For other areas, including Vail, Winter Park, Steamboat Springs, Aspen, Telluride, or Crested Butte, I do know some wonderful brokers in these communities. I'm more than happy to provide a recommendation. You can just call or email me. These realtors, really strive to know their communities like I know Summit County, and you'd be in really good hands with them. And if you've stumbled across this video or my website and you're looking in other areas of the state or the country, I can help you find someone knowledgeable there as well. Just reach out to me anytime. I'm really happy to help in any way that I can.